Hey everybody, this video is educational series part video 4. This one is on the myth, I guess you could say. Not necessarily a myth, but a little bit of confusion, I should say, between why you're getting an infrared sauna, difference between a traditional sauna, and how that ties into different brands and what they're offering you, or seem to be offering you. And then also how that's tied to cleansing, detoxification, and so what's really the confusion here? It's more of a misunderstanding that most people don't know that the vast majority of toxins, okay, that you get from your environment mainly, actually get processed through the normal elimination organs. So there would be mainly most of it going through the liver, the kidneys processing, and the digestive tract, and the lymphatic system, which is dumping everything from the cells into those main elimination organs and going down, because that's, gravity pulling things down. And so that's 90-something%, okay? The rest is coming out through breath, okay? So that's why exercise, that's one reason exercise, raising your heart rate, deep breathing and breathing practices are really good. You release something like 2 pounds, it's something unbelievable, of different types of toxins and metabolic byproducts. A lot of that's carbonic acid, the actual breakdown of carbs that you're eating, which is kind of interesting. And then there's then also a smaller percentage that's coming out through the skin. Now, if you've gone through a skin rejuvenation protocol to really open up the pores, cleanse that part of your surface lymphatic system, it's about 70% of lymphatic systems and more the peripheral and on the surface, then you've optimized that biggest organ in your body, which is your skin, to actually release more, and that's what I recommend to get more out of your sauna experience. And that's in more of an educational series on health related to detoxification practices and optimizing that, or mobilization, which is another term for toxins. So with infrared saunas, keep in mind, so what I'm saying here is this, is a lot of people get these saunas because they want to mobilize and detox, as two slightly separate but related concepts of releasing toxins and moving them out of your body. But they want to do both of these things, and they believe that sweating is extremely important, that it's, and while it is extremely helpful, keep in mind, now you know that basically most of that stuff is going through the normal elimination organs and pathways. It's actually more important in a way to optimize and support those elimination pathways through various supplements, lifestyle changes, practices, things like that. Okay, so yes, it's good to sweat, but so this brings us back to, okay, using an infrared sauna is all about the infrared. So that's why getting quality infrared exposure from quality emitters is important. That's going to give you more of the health benefits that you desire. And that even if you have your sauna set on a low temperature, okay, and you're not really doing a lot of sweating, you're still getting a huge range of health benefits. And remember that most of the health benefits that have to do with infrared are not necessarily about mobilization and detoxification, which is interesting. That's of course extremely important. But again, the point is, when we looked at all those thousands of studies, what most of those benefits that have been analyzed and tracked and found is just related to other beneficial improvements in the body, not necessarily. So detoxification, mobilization, toxins, that makes up a small percentage, and then sweating also is a small percentage of what's actually released that way. The rest is going through those pathways. Infrared is actually helping to increase the efficiency, to put it very simply, basically on a cellular level, for all the different aspects of the immune system to mobilize and move those toxins through the elimination organs better. Okay, so you're still getting a lot of benefits, most of the benefits, even if you're not sweating per se. So this is why I advise people to really focus on emitters that again are putting out in a little bit more of the 9-ish spectrum. They can incorporate other spectrums as well, but getting more of that delivered. And if you don't choose those, then your next best option is to keep your sauna at 100 degrees the whole time. Some saunas don't go that low, which is unfortunate, but the ones that do 105 or 100 degrees or less, you want to keep it set on that as often as possible in those other types of tier 2 brands, because then at least you can kind of be sure that you're going to be getting more in the 9.4, right around that range, for a longer period of time. Now keep in mind that you also want to make sure that the emitters, heaters, actually stay on the whole time. So there's actually several brands that are heavily advertised where the emitters actually click off. And that was something that was a little bit more common also, by the way, with older generation saunas, or just old saunas. So sometimes one brand, they were using a system that used to shut off and on, and their newer saunas in the last 5-7 years, something like that, don't do that anymore. That's one thing you always want to make sure, is that these emitters stay on the whole time. And you can certainly ask the company. Most likely they're not usually going to lie about something like that, pretty basic. And a lot of times they'll talk about that on their website and promote it as a good thing. Their emitters don't turn off. So different companies will have different systems, sometimes the same identical system for keeping the emitters on the whole time. But you don't want them to turn off, because that means then you're sitting in a sauna that's warm, but you're not getting actually any infrared exposure, which you always want to maximize your amount of infrared exposure to get all those health benefits, the most mobilization in the shortest period of time that you're actually in there. It needs to stay on the whole time. So for some sauna brands, that again, the only reasons people would select these other ones where the emitters turn off, or don't have emitters that can stay in the more beneficial spectrums, more stimulatory, I should say, is budget, basically. They're cheaper saunas for the most part. And so there's some scale backs on what they can do, basically. Therapeutic features. So sometimes you have to kind of hack in a way with how you're doing your settings on there. And probably the biggest important thing to know is 100 degrees, puts out around that 9.4. So for some saunas, just keep it set that whole time. If it shuts off, you'll have to go to the control panel and turn it back on again, which is kind of a little annoying. But and for some of them, they shut off because they're overheating, so potentially you could damage it if you actually turn it back on again. Anyways, I usually steer people away from the sauna brands, of which there's a lot of them. So don't worry, I won't steer you wrong. But anyways, so detoxification. And so in general, if we were to say, okay, carbon, ceramics, hybrids, all that kind of stuff, which type of emitter is going to give you more mobilization and detoxification potential? It's very simple. The one that has, for the whole session, the capacity to put out, they can put out a variety of spectrums, that's fine, but it always should make sure that it's always delivering around the 9.4 also, around that very stimulatory range. And the emitter stays on the whole time. And the fluence, the amount of quantity of infrared being converted from electricity to infrared, is high. Okay, it's as efficient as possible. You always want to get the most. It's dosage time. You want the highest dosage of infrared while you're in your 15-minute session, 20-minute session, hour-and-a-half session, however long you're going to be in there. But in general, if you are getting a very high dosage of infrared, most people can't survive an hour-and-a-half. That's a very long time. That is one benefit. If you're needing to be more efficient with your time, then you want to get an emitter that cranks out a lot of infrared, basically, so you can be in there a much shorter period of time. The other thing about this is, depending on your health condition, which you would notify me about, and your health goals, which you notify me about if you filled out a response form for consultation, is that, again, depending on those variables, you may be better suited to having a sauna that can put out a lot of fluence, but then you can keep it a low temperature. So see, the issue is, with a lot of saunas, if you keep it at a low temperature, it doesn't have quite that same production of quantity or fluence of infrared, and that's a little bit compromised. So some sauna, and for some people, they just can't handle those high temperatures. It's like, for example, if you have long-term chronic Lyme's, okay, and there's also a variety of other types of diseases or conditions that really run the charge polarity level of the cells really low, or the person's already chronically dehydrated or deficient in electrolytes, things like that, and other B vitamins and so on and so forth. Sometimes the last thing that the person needs is a lot of heat, just a lot of intensity. So, but they still want a good dosage of infrared. So there are some brands that are better suited to keep on a lower setting. 100 degrees, pretty comfortable. 115, 105, but still get a very good dosage of infrared. And that's good. That's good for them until they work their way up, basically, and get healthier. After a few months, they're adjusting, the temperature hotter and hotter and hotter. Not necessary, though, again, to get most of the benefits. But if you have any more questions about that, detoxification protocols, your unique health goals or needs, or some disease you may have, keep in mind, of course, I'm not a doctor, and I don't prescribe any sort of medical consultation or course of treatment or anything like that. It's just advice that you can use, for your own discernment. But I'd be happy to help you in any way that I can. Anyways, thanks for watching.